Have you ever stood before a place of profound sorrow and felt the weight of its past pressing in on you? Have you ever wondered what secrets truly linger in the deepest shadows of abandoned asylums and prisons? These are not just empty buildings, they are stone and steel diaries, filled with the echoes of forgotten lives, their pages stained with desperation and pain. The theory of residual hauntings, or the stone tape theory, suggests that powerful human emotions can be recorded onto the very fabric of a location, replaying for eternity like a ghostly film. Today, we are not just looking for ghosts, we are looking for the echoes of history, for the emotional residue left behind by thousands of souls. So, take a deep breath. Let's take a chilling walk through some of America's most haunted institutions, places where the past refuses to stay buried, and the walls themselves seem to whisper their tragic tales. Our first stop brings us to the rolling hills of West Virginia, to the imposing form of the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Opened in 1864, this colossal structure was designed as a beacon of hope. It was built on the principles of Dr. Thomas Story Kirkbride, who believed that beautiful architecture, fresh air, and meaningful work could cure the mentally ill. The building itself was meant to be a tool for healing, a sanctuary for troubled minds. But this noble dream soon curdled into a nightmare. Designed for just 250 souls, the asylum's population swelled to over 2,400 by the 1950s. The Civil War had already scarred its early years, with its grounds becoming a battle site. But it was the crushing weight of overcrowding that truly broke it. Patients were forced to sleep on floors, in hallways, anywhere they could fit. Sanitation failed. Food was scarce. The sanctuary became a warehouse for the unwanted, and the methods of treatment grew increasingly desperate and barbaric. Patients were subjected to ice water baths, electroshock therapy, and one of the most brutal procedures ever conceived, the ice pick lobotomy. Thousands of these procedures were performed right here, severing connections in the brain in a crude attempt to manage behavior. For many, this was not a place of healing, but a place of death. It's estimated that tens of thousands of patients died within these walls, many buried in unmarked graves on the property. Their stories didn't end at death, they simply became a part of the building's eternal narrative. And that narrative is most vivid in the stories of its resident spirits. Perhaps the most famous is a little girl named Lily. Lily is believed to have been a patient here, or perhaps the daughter of one. Her playful spirit is said to haunt the children's ward. Visitors leave toys for her, balls, dolls, music boxes, and often, they are rewarded. Balls will roll back and forth with an unseen playmate, music boxes will tinkle in the dead of night, and the faint sound of a child's giggle is often captured on audio recorders. She is a reminder that not all the spirits here are menacing, but all are tragic, but others are far more terrifying. In the geriatric ward, staff and investigators have reported encounters with a horrifying entity known as the Creeper. It's described as a shadowy, humanoid figure that crawls on the floor and up the walls, moving with unnatural speed. Its presence is often accompanied by a feeling of pure dread. Is it the spirit of a patient who was confined to the floor, or something older and more malevolent drawn to the asylum's pain? No one knows for sure. Today, paranormal teams flock here, armed with cameras and sensors. One investigator, after a night in the medical wing, stated, "It's not like other places. The energy here is intelligent. It watches you. It tests you." We recorded a clear EVP of a man's voice whispering, "Get out." A moment later, our fully charged camera battery died instantly. You feel like you're trespassing not just in a building, but in the memories of the dead. Whispers from empty rooms, shadowy figures darting down hallways, and the chilling sensation of an icy hand brushing against your skin are all common reports. The spirits of Trans-Allegheny aren't shy, and they have a lot to say. From the horror of a failed sanctuary, we travel to a place built with no pretense of healing. Let's step inside the West Virginia Penitentiary in Moundsville. If the asylum was a monument to madness, this prison is a cathedral of violence. Its Gothic revival architecture, with crenellated towers and imposing walls, was designed to intimidate, to project an image of inescapable punishment. And for over 100 years, it delivered. Built in 1876, partly by the inmates themselves, this fortress of stone became one of the most violent penal institutions in American history. The conditions were deplorable. Cells were tiny, infested, and freezing in the winter. This brutal environment bred brutal men. Violence was a daily currency. Riots were common, the most famous being the 1986 uprising where inmates took 16 guards hostage for 2 days to protest the inhuman conditions. But the most infamous part of the prison was a basement recreation room, ironically nicknamed the Sugar Shack. It was an ungoverned space where the strongest inmates carried out beatings, assaults, and murder against their rivals. The sheer brutality that transpired in that one room is enough to stain the ground forever. Beyond inmate violence, the state exacted its own. Nearly 100 men were executed here. The methods were grim. 85 by hanging, often in public spectacles that drew crowds. The gallows were known to malfunction, leading to slow, gruesome deaths. Later they were replaced by the electric chair, grimly nicknamed Old Sparky. Inmates and guards alike met tragic, violent ends behind these iron bars, their final moments charged with terror and rage. It's no surprise, then, that the prison is considered a hotbed of paranormal activity. The most frequently reported ghost is the Shadow Man. Countless visitors, guards, and investigators have seen this tall, dark silhouette gliding silently through the corridors, particularly in the North Hall, where the most dangerous inmates were housed. It has no discernible features, just an oppressive presence that radiates cold and menace. Many believe it to be the lingering spirit of an inmate murdered by his peers, forever stalking the site of his demise. A former guard who worked the night shift for 15 years had this to say: "You never felt alone. Ever. You'd hear footsteps walking the tier above you when you knew it was empty. You'd hear men whispering and crying from cells that had been vacant for years. The energy in this place, it's heavy, it's angry, it gets inside you. I saw the Shadow Man more than once. You don't just see it with your eyes, you feel it in your soul." People on tours report being touched, pushed, and hearing their names whispered from empty cells. Cell doors slam shut with terrifying force, and full-bodied apparitions of inmates and guards are seen still walking their eternal miserable posts. But what if the horror wasn't just a byproduct of the conditions but the very purpose of the design? For our final location, we traveled to Philadelphia and the crumbling fortress of Eastern State Penitentiary. When it opened in 1829, it was the most expensive and famous prison in the world. It was founded on a revolutionary Quaker philosophy that solitary confinement would lead to penitence, forcing a prisoner to reflect on their sins. Inmates were kept in total isolation. They ate alone, exercised alone in tiny private yards, and when moved, guards would cover their heads with a hood so they would see no one. This system of psychological torment, meant to save their souls, often shattered their minds. The isolation drove many to insanity, and their tormented spirits are said to remain. Cell Block 12 is infamous for the sound of disembodied, maniacal laughter echoing through the hall. In Cell Block 4, ghostly faces are sometimes seen peering out from the empty cells. One of the most compelling stories comes from a locksmith who was hired to remove an antique lock from a cell door. He claimed that as he worked, he felt as if he were surrounded by ghostly figures, and saw tormented faces materializing on the cell wall before him. Even the ghost of infamous inmate Al Capone, who served time here in a surprisingly comfortable cell, is said to linger. His spirit is reportedly heard playing the banjo from the walls of his old cell. From a hospital meant to heal, to a prison meant to punish, to another that drove men mad in the name of reform. These locations are united by the sheer scale of human suffering they witnessed. The pain was so immense, so concentrated, that it has become a permanent part of their identity. So, I ask you again, would you dare visit these haunted landmarks? Would you willingly walk into the heart of such sorrow and risk coming face to face with the echoes it left behind? Or do you believe that some doors and the stories behind them are better left closed forever? Let me know in the comments which of these places you find the most terrifying, and if you'd be brave enough to spend a night inside one. Have you ever had your own experience in a haunted location? I want to hear your stories. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the dark heart of history. Until next time, sleep tight.